Imagine this. You're walking through the streets of Paris in the late 1700s. The air smells of bread, but most people can't afford even a loaf. The rich live in giant palaces, eating lavish feasts, while the poor struggle just to survive. Tension is in the air, and people are whispering about change. This is the world of the French Revolution, one of the most dramatic events in history, but here's the twist. So much of what you think you know about it might actually be wrong. Today, we're diving into the myths versus the facts about the French Revolution. And I promise you'll come out surprised. Now, let's start with one of the biggest myths. Marie Antoinette said, "Let them eat cake." You've heard that, right? It's the most famous line tied to the revolution. But here's the fact, it's a complete myth. Marie Antoinette never said those words. The phrase was actually written in a book years before she was even queen. It became an easy way to make her look like a spoiled villain, disconnected from the people. In reality, she wasn't the best queen, sure, but she wasn't the cartoonish monster people made her out to be either. It's like blaming someone for a viral meme today. They never said it, but once it spreads, you can't stop it. Here's another one. The revolution was all about bread. Now, yes, bread played a huge role. People were starving, and prices for bread shot up so high that families couldn't eat. But it wasn't just about food. The French Revolution was about inequality. The rich nobility and clergy didn't pay taxes, while the common people carried the weight of the entire country on their shoulders. Imagine if today billionaires paid nothing, and you had to cover their bills. Wouldn't you be furious too? Bread was the spark, but injustice was the fuel that kept the fire burning. And what about the guillotine? People often imagine it as this non-stop machine, chopping heads every day in the town square. It's true that thousands were executed, but here's the fact. The guillotine was actually invented as a humane way to die. Sounds strange, right? But back then, executions could be messy and brutal. Think axes missing their mark or people suffering for minutes. The guillotine was supposed to be quick, equal, and painless. In fact, some called it the Great Equalizer, because it didn't matter if you were rich or poor, your head would roll the same way. Creepy, but also oddly fair. Now, let's bust another myth. The revolution gave freedom and equality to everyone. Not exactly. While the revolution shouted about liberty, equality, and fraternity, women were left out. Leaders like Olympe de Gouges, who wrote the Declaration of the Rights of Women, were silenced, even executed. And for people living in French colonies, like in Haiti, the promise of freedom was delayed. So, the revolution planted seeds of change, but it didn't deliver fairness to all right away. Here's something you might find surprising. The revolution wasn't just France's drama, it shook the entire world. It inspired revolts across Europe, scared kings and queens everywhere, and even influenced revolutions in the Americas. Think of it like the viral trend of the 18th century. Everyone was watching, some were copying, and some were terrified it might spread to their own backyard. But the revolution wasn't just blood and chaos. It gave us big ideas that still matter today. Democracy, human rights, the power of the people. These ideas spread far beyond France. Even the way we think about nations and citizenship today owes a lot to those fiery years. Of course, the revolution was messy. Leaders came and went. Violence exploded. And at times it seemed like freedom had lost its way. The Reign of Terror, when thousands were executed in the name of saving the revolution, showed just how extreme things got. It's a reminder that even fights for justice can spiral out of control when fear takes over. So, what's the truth about the French Revolution? It's not just a story about kings losing their heads or people eating cake. It's about ordinary people demanding fairness, a broken system finally collapsing, and new ideas shaping the modern world. It's about myths that became more famous than facts, and lessons that still matter centuries later. And here's a question for you. If you were living in France at that time, would you have joined the revolution? Or would you have been too scared of the chaos? Think about it, because history isn't just about what happened back then. It's about what we would do if we were in their shoes. The French Revolution shows us that change is possible, but it comes with risks, struggles, and sacrifices, and maybe that's why it continues to fascinate us today. Thanks so much for watching and hanging out with me as we busted myths and uncovered the facts about one of history's most dramatic events. If you enjoyed this deep dive, hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more history stories told in a fun and simple way. Until next time, remember, history isn't just about the past, it's about the choices we make today.